she's so fine. Helluva, blows my mind. Helluva, lights my day.
What's good, guys? This story came out on April the 16th. It's coming out of Florida, and I want to thank Marie722 for sending it to me. Florida couple kept emaciated children locked up, starved them for months in disturbing and horrific abuse case, police say. That's a picture of the couple accused of doing this. And there's a video I'm going to play at the end. A Florida couple was arrested after allegedly imprisoning and starving 3 teenagers over the course of months, while the rest of the family apparently had ample food and space to share. Quote, there was a chain lock on the door to the bedrooms shared by the 3 victims, St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office Chief Deputy Brian Hester said during a Tuesday press conference. The 3 teenage victims weighed well below the accepted standard for their ages, end quote. According to local NBC affiliate WPTV, Oscar Torres, 40, and his wife, Brittany Kirschenhofer, 32, were arrested on Tuesday morning after a months-long investigation that began in early February of this year, following a tipster's anonymous complaint. Torres and Kirschenhofer are currently being held without bond on 3 counts each of child abuse and neglect. Authorities say there were a total of 5 children living in the house. The 3 teenagers have been identified as Torres' biological children and are said to be 16-year-old twins and a 17-year-old. The other 2 children, 6 years old and 9 years old, are Kirschenhofer's biological children and were apparently treated, quote, much, much differently than the other 3 children, end quote. One of the teenagers was discovered eating out of a trash can at one point, according to the police report, which allegedly resulted in their being starved for 4 days as punishment by the couple. All of the teenagers, Hester said, were severely malnourished. Quote, their hip bones were protruding from the pelvic area and bones along the spine were pushing through the skin on their backs, with the beginning stages of an open sore, Hester said. Medical evaluations all confirmed this condition was a direct result of malnutrition and required a feeding tube to try and gradually bring the child back to the appropriate level of nutrition for their age, end quote. One of the teenagers, police noted, only weighed 50 pounds and was discovered hallucinating, lacking verbal function and muscle control. One girl was diagnosed with, quote, drop foot, end quote, which the police report describes as, quote, a medical condition where she has lost the muscle control of the top of her feet, causing her not to be able to walk, end quote. According to a police interview with Torres, one of the girls lost control of her bowels and, quote, started seeing people that weren't actually there, end quote. But he allegedly believes she was, quote, faking it, end quote. From that report, Torres said victim number 2's body stiffened up and she continued to say random things like up, down, it's the Pediasure, there's worms in it, and redacted pregnant. Torres says she would just stare at the wall and did not make full conversation. A medical professional cited in the report also noted that one of the children had, quote, scabbed abrasions, end quote, on their body, quote, consistent with crawling, falling, and or kneeling, end quote. While the criminal investigation necessarily took a while, social services in the Sunshine State were proactive. Following the initial tip on February the 10th, the Florida Department of Children and Families removed children from the home on February 22nd. The 3 teenagers are now in the care of their biological mother. The other 2 children are being looked after by other relatives, police say. The couple allegedly claimed this was a big misunderstanding and told police there were only a lock on the children's bedroom door to keep the family's dogs inside, because the dogs are, quote, escape artists, end quote. Quote, the details of this case are disturbing and some of the most appalling examples of child neglect that I have heard in my 26 years in law enforcement, Hester said, describing the details as, quote, horrific, end quote. One of the victims even admitted they knew what was happening to them was wrong, Hester added, and they just couldn't figure out a way to help their siblings out of this situation. Let's watch the video that goes with this story.
Investigators in St. Lucie County say it's one of the most appalling cases of child neglect that they've seen in decades. 2 parents are in jail tonight. Detectives say their 3 children were found so malnourished, one was hallucinating and needed a feeding tube to recover. WPTV News Channel 5's Megan McRoberts has reaction from people who know the parents.
Well, neighbors tell me that these allegations are very hard to believe, but investigators say 3 teenagers had been in virtual school and hadn't left their home since December. But a concerned parent at a dance class where the teenagers' younger siblings felt something was wrong and made a call that got them help. 3 teenage siblings locked in a room with a surveillance camera.
There was a chain lock on the door to the bedroom shared by the 3 victims.
Investigators saying they were under such tight control they would sometimes go 20 hours without food despite stocked refrigerators.
One of the 3 of them would have to secretly scavenge for scraps of food and secretly eat them.
Arrest records say the teen would be abused for scouring for food. Chief Deputy Brian Hester says 2 16-year-old twin girls and a 17-year-old boy were not allowed to leave the house. Their father, 40-year-old Oscar Torres, and their stepmother, 32-year-old Brittany Kirschenhofer, now in jail, accused of letting the teens become so malnourished one lost control of their bowels, had to be rushed to the hospital during a welfare check.
The victim weighed around 50 pounds and was found hallucinating with loss of verbal communication, muscle control, and other bodily functions.
Arrest records say her thighs were the size of a forearm.
And they're some of the most appalling examples of child neglect that I've ever heard of in my 26 years in law enforcement.
Investigators say 2 other children in the house, ages 6 and 9, were treated much better, but they were Kirschenhofer's biological children. The teens belonged to Torres.
Torres stated that he worked long shifts and that Kirschenhofer was a stay-at-home mom who was left there to take care of the family during the virtual school process as a result of the pandemic.
Oh my God, that is scary.
Neighbor Greg Phillips watched the arrest, not knowing what they were accused of.
Yeah, I never remember seeing the girls. Wow, I wouldn't even know that they had girls.
Now the teens are with their biological mother, who said she didn't know they were being neglected. Kirschenhofer's younger children are also with other family. And Kirschenhofer told investigators that those locks on the doors were actually used to keep their dogs inside, but those surveillance videos showed otherwise. Kirschenhofer and Torres are both in jail on a $90,000 bond.
That's even hard to hear. It'd be nice if they could treat them the same way that they treated the 3 children. Of course, we know they can't do that, but it would be nice so that they could see what that feels like. I'm going to end the story on that note. Thanks for watching, guys.